Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed, momentarily. But we are also joined by very special guests, our number one fan, the Colonel, father-in-law, combat veteran of the United States Army. How are you doing tonight, sir?
Good, thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course, sir, that we would have none other than you have on, and we wanted to kind of ask you about, your fandom over the years. You're a lifelong fan. When you were deployed overseas, you were able to watch Washington games. So let's start this out from the birth of this thing, Colonel. Let's ask you, what was like your favorite player growing up? Like, what was the best time? If you could put the best time in your fandom as a Washington fan, when would that be?
Well, my best time obviously was our Super Bowl year. Beginning in 1987, I guess. I was pretty new in the Army, a brand new second lieutenant stationed overseas in Germany. And I just remember feeling like I'm going to bed, 10-0. It's already 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning in Germany. And I gave it a little bit more time, and suddenly Doug Williams just turned it on. I just remember I was up the whole night, and you can just imagine. I didn't need to sleep that night. I wasn't eating any horse shit in Germany. But yeah, that was probably there, definitely.
Oh, it's on me. My bad. I can't see anything. I don't even remember what I was going to ask. I'm not even ready. Let's fast forward now to a little bit like this upcoming season. I was on Twitter earlier today, just trying to get how people feel about. It's like back in the day, the RG3, the Kirk Cousins saga. I feel like the fan base was split down the middle, caused a lot of division, and I feel like for some reason it's heading towards that this season with Fitzpatrick and Heineke. How do you feel about Fitzpatrick, and what do you see from him between Fitzpatrick and Heineke this upcoming season?
Well, that's usually the questions that I'm asking you guys every week. To be honest, look, it's right now it's a crapshoot. I can't wait to see what Heineke can do. We already know what Fitzpatrick can do. If Heineke can be a little bit better, if he can add a different dimension, especially being probably a more mobile quarterback, we'll see how that shakes out. But that's my biggest question mark right now. I just can't wait to see what happens in training camp.
Yeah, and Colonel, one of the most fascinating things that I have with you, whenever I talk with you, it's especially with that military kind of backing. And with Ron Rivera, we've talked about before how there is some commonalities between Ron Rivera and the military. So in your opinion, have you kind of seen some similarities between the two with Rivera and the military?
I think that Ron Rivera definitely has a military type approach, to his leadership, to his supervisory, his managerial approach to his players. From what I hear, he's a no BS. He tells you where you are, and as a soldier, that was my preference. That's the way that I used to talk to soldiers. So yes, I definitely see them having more faith in this regime as opposed to the last one, where everybody that left, including our assistant coaches like McVay and what's his face, the son of
Kyle Shanahan,
every single person that left here was bad mouthing us. And I don't think that you're going to hear the same thing, from people like Morgan Moses and those that we've let go.
That's a good point.
They're sad to be gone. And I think that's all because of Ron Rivera's leadership, which, yes, I definitely think because of his background, his folks being military and stuff like that, he was exposed to that. And it's a style that's worked for him, obviously.
Go, Hall.
Oh, I thought Reed was in here. So like you said, you've been a fan for a while. You witnessed the glory years, the Joe Gibbs era, and all that good stuff. Do you have a favorite player that you've had either back then or now to this date?
I do. It's people my age probably, at least 25% of them will say this, but I have to love John Riggins. You guys, you don't see it now. You see the snapshots, you see the 2-minute, blurbs of him running down the field during a Super Bowl, but you talk about swag every now and then, and I'll tell you that John Riggins was the epitome of swagger in Washington, D.C. back then. I mean, he was nuts. He had a mohawk. He was just, after they won one Super Bowl, the Supreme Court justices were there, and he got shit-faced, and he said to Sandra Day O'Connor, he told her to loosen up, Sandy, baby. I mean, this is a Supreme Court justice. So just that swag, we haven't had it. I think the closest we've seen in 35 years is probably is Chase Young. I definitely see it with him, without a doubt.
Yeah, I could totally agree with you on there. But that being said, Colonel, you know a lot about the military, everything that goes into it. So, like, for our position groups, like, for example, you got the D-line, the wide receivers. If you could, like, designate them to a branch of the military or, like, a possible special forces, like, where would you put the defensive line? What branch would they go into?
Wow. I would the defensive line.
They got to be Marines, right?
I mean, you'd have to make them some of the tier 1 grunts. Like either the 75th Ranger Regiment or like Villanueva. The former Steelers tackle. He was a Ranger Regiment guy. And all of those guys they got muscles in their shit. They're all physical specimens. So, I would probably go with, Marine Recon or the 75th Rangers, something like that. Definitely.
I like that.
Nice. And we've asked a couple of people this question, and everyone's always given different answers. So I'm interested to get yours. What do you think would be a successful season in your eyes for Washington this season?
Again, another question that I think I have.
Oh, really?
But what would make you happy, Colonel? Like, what would you see to make you happy this season to say, all right, this wasn't a waste?
Well, I would like it, obviously, for us to win the division again. I would like for us to be better than 500. So I guess we're talking 9-7 then, or no, 9-8. So I guess win the division, 9-8, and win a playoff game, to me, is I don't think that's too much to ask. With the upgrades that they made during the off season, and again, the only wild card here being our quarterback play. It killed us last year.
Yep, absolutely destroyed us, Colonel. It definitely did. Now, you being a tenured fan, generally, like, people like that are older than me will look at us and say, you guys drink the Kool-Aid, right? All the time, you guys get hyped up on what the status of the team is. You think they're going to go farther than they are. Seeing this team and what they did last year and how they have gotten better in the offseason, do you think that the tide is turning? This actually could be the first back-to-back divisional winner for the NFC East since 2004?
I think that there is something different. I mean, look, we have felt it in the past. There's been these science projects that we've done. We brought on guys like Bruce Smith and Adam Archuleta and Deion Sanders, and you can run down Halbert Hainsworth. We can run down the list. All of these things that pretty much turned out to be a bust for our team, but it still brought the fan spirit every year. I think that the difference this year goes back to your first question, that being about Ron Rivera and his coaching style, his leadership style. And I think that the culture change that everybody talks about, is something that he's very serious about. And now they talk about it. You guys were talking about it a couple weeks ago on one of your pods when guys aren't like walking in between drills and stuff. They're hustling, that kind of thing. And you don't see that kind of discipline on a squad usually, unless you're talking about a Belichick, team, something like that. So that's nice to hear. It's the first time I've heard it in a long time, and that's the reason why I've got a different level of excitement, even though I'm still cautious about that optimism.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one player this year there's going to be like a standout, either offense or defense, who do you think that would be?
Well, I know who I hope it would be.
Or you can go who you hope it would be.
I really hope it's Gibby. I really do. I hope that toe turf injury is being overhyped. I hope it's something that he's going to be able to grind his way through, because I definitely see him as a Alvin Kamara type back. I mean, I never realized how big he was. But I know it's, Gibby. Gibby on offense, and then I just don't know what to even say about defense. Everything is so different. We've got Ioannidis back. Our entire defensive backfield is revamped. Our linebacker core has been upgraded. Defensively, I would love to see Ioannidis. I would love to see him have a good year after being injured last year.
Yeah. And then, Colonel, I wanted to ask you a funny question, but I have a serious question as well. But if you're going into last-minute combat and you have to choose between Hall or Reed, which one are you choosing to help you?
Oh, wow. Well, based on their stories from a week ago, the one where at least Reed had the situational awareness to use a course of action that actually worked. Okay. Even though it wasn't manly, it wasn't manly at all. But uncontrollable weeping, I guess, has its place, and he found it. So I can't knock that. That was a well executed course of action that worked out for him. Hall, on the other hand, I can't remember the movie, but it's a movie about this poor guy, and everything just keeps getting worse and more fucked up. And he walks out his car, there's people stealing. It sounded exactly like Hall's night. So
that sounds like my life. You're dead on with that one.
So I'm just going to question your situational awareness. Leaving the keys in your car and then walking out and then, that kind of shit. So I'm gonna flip a quarter and say at least to this point, I'm gonna take Reed into that situation.
There we go. I like it.
I cannot be mad at that answer. Trust me.
Now, on the serious note, Colonel, you being a long-tenured Washington fan, let's just say that Dan Snyder, Jason Wright are listening to this interview. What are your hopes for the rebrand process? What do you want out of the rebrand? And is there any suggestions that you would have for the new stadium?
From the very beginning, you've said that you want the team name and the stadium to be something that is distinctly Washington. It's our team, it's our national capital region. And I agree with that. And I think that Baltimore did a great job in picking out their name, the Edgar Allan Poe poem and stuff. I mean, they just did it the right way. And they've got a nice stadium right next to Orioles Stadium, that whole kind of thing. And I mean, if we could do something like that, something where they can show, some horseshoe-shaped stadium that can show some of the monuments or something would be awesome. I just think that there's a lot of politics involved.
Yeah.
Same thing with the name. I mean, they're going to have to be super careful about that, and hopefully not too politically correct, and not, because then it's just going to be stupid. Seriously, the Washington monuments, I'm going to hang myself if that happens. No, that was not a correct. No. But Did that answer your question? I'm sorry.
It did. You answered it perfectly, sir. And I can't thank you enough. You know, you are our number one fan. You've probably watched this show more than I have. To be perfectly honest with you, Colonel, I can't thank you enough for everything that you do. I'm glad that we could finally get you on here and introduce you to everybody so they could finally see and meet the Colonel himself.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Loved it.
Appreciate you coming on, man.
All right, sir. I'll see you soon.
Love you guys. Take care.
All right. Love you too. Peace.
See you.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, the Colonel, the legend himself.
The myth, the legend
himself. And we are also going to be joined by Louie Tee, which you can find him on YouTube at Louie Tee Network. We're going to be joined by him in a couple minutes here. But before we do, let's go on with our fan questions that were submitted today because we got some great ones, Hall. So let's rip these apart, okay? Tay and Todd's podcast want to know, if after 7 weeks the team is 2-5 and Fitzpatrick's stat line is something like 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 1,700 yards, are you pulling the plug and going to Taylor Heineke?
It's funny, we were just going back and everyone was going back and forth on my tweet this morning about this. I would say I would give him maybe one more game to see if he can turn it around, but also I would put the caveat in there. It depends how the rest of the division is. I feel like if they can still make a run at the division or still have a chance at the division with, what would that be, 5 and 10 games left, I think that they might switch it over to Heineke just to see if they can get a spark in the offense, spark in the rest of the team, maybe go on like a nice little run like they have done to make the playoffs for the past couple years. They have made the playoffs. It's always been a end of the year type of winning streak. But yeah, I just think that for the most part, it's Fitzpatrick's job, and he's going to have the longest leash ever known to Washington football quarterback ever. So I just think that it's going to take a lot to go to Heineke, but like I said, it depends how close the division would be for me, but I definitely think it's Fitzpatrick's job to lose. When I say lose it, I mean just completely lose it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, would I pull the plug at that point? Most likely, because it's sitting at 2-5. What are you getting from Fitzpatrick at that point, right? You could go on a run without a doubt, but you could easily see what Ron Rivera did last year with Alex Smith. And, you know, you kind of have a losing record. You're going towards the easy part of the schedule. All right, let's bring in Alex Smith and let's see what he can do and start this run. Maybe that's what they do with Taylor Heineke, but I would rather it to be flip-flop, to be perfectly honest. Would you rather be stuck in a situation where Ryan Fitzpatrick comes in, doesn't do all that well, and you have to resort to Taylor Heineke? Or would you rather start Taylor Heineke right away to see what you have, or then go directly to your Ryan Fitzpatrick after that because you know he can step in and do well? It's a very sticky situation, but obviously it's going to be Fitzpatrick starting regardless. And with that stat line, yes, I would pull the plug. Sitting at 2-5, about to hit the stretch. I think Taylor would be 100% healthy at that point. Let's see what you got. And same with Kyle Allen. Just pull the plug on all these guys. You know what I'm saying? Whichever one, if any of their stat lines look like this, yes, pull the dang plug, dude. I wholeheartedly believe that. Now, our next question. Thank you, Tay and Todd. You guys are fantastic, by the way. Go follow them on iTunes. You can find their stuff out and on YouTube. Next one is from the man, Scott Hartley, the Inquirer. Oi!
Oi!
Who of the current team would, in your opinion, make the NFL top 100 players for 2021?
Like realistically, or do you think like who do I want to be on there?
Realistically.
Because realistically, I'll probably say the only person that could probably get on there is Chase Young, just because obviously he was the big name, number 2 pick overall. I'm not gonna say he lived up to like, because everyone made him seem like he's going to be a Hall of Famer from day one. Obviously, he's getting double and triple teamed every single week, mostly. Still he ended up with 7.5 sacks, coming off of an injury in the beginning of the year. Once he finally got fully healthy again, the sacks came on. He had multiple forced fumbles, a touchdown, fumble recovery. So I definitely think it would be Chase. But I definitely think that if another person had a chance to get on there, it would be Cam Curl, just for the simple fact of once Landon Collins went down, this dude stepped on there and did his thing. But I definitely think solidified is going to be Chase Young.
Yeah, I agree with you there wholeheartedly. I would say Logan Thomas deserves to be on this list just with how he played last year. Obviously, he didn't make the Pro Bowl, which he should have. He should have gotten it over Evan Ingram. I don't care what anyone says.
That's
Definitely
so
should have.
ridiculous to me still.
Ridiculous that that even happened. So for me, it's Logan Thomas coming in right away, doing what he did. And the tight end position really isn't one that is for example, it's not like the quarterback position where you have a plethora of a bunch of good quarterbacks. Tight end position is kind of it's almost like a picking of who you think fits the best and is the best. Without a doubt, I think it's Logan. I think he did earn himself into the top 100.
I will say he had like 110 targets last year, which you didn't even really realize that. But yeah, I think he had like 60, 70, 80 catches or something like that. So
ridiculous.
Definitely, yeah, definitely deserved to be on there.
Yeah. Now, Scott's next question for us. Can you guys debate it out on separate positional groups, giving reasons either why you feel it's the best group or the worst group? And then I'll let you choose how to play out. All right? So, which is the best group? Which is the worst group of this team, would you say, Hall, of the team? Positional.
Well, obviously the best, we're both probably going to agree, is the defensive line. That's not even like questionable. The worst group out of this position group, out of this offense and defense would be, I think I'll probably still go linebacker, only because Ron Rivera was giving him so much grief and so much, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Pretty much they weren't living up to Ron Rivera's, like, what he wanted out of his linebacking core last year. Correct. He said in the media different times. He called him out to the media different times. So, and then obviously bringing in Jamin Davis is going to hugely upgrade that defense and the linebackers. But I just still think that Cole Holcomb, I have a lot of faith in. We'll see if he can consistently like do his thing and stay on the field this season. And still missing that third guy. I know John Bostic is there. I think he's a solid veteran, can do his thing, but I still think they're slightly the weakest part of this team.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Really good point. I do agree that obviously it's a defensive line. I think that's the easiest one to say. But I will point out, and I'll put on there, that the secondary should garner some attention in this aspect. I think the secondary has played incredibly well, and they are bolstered up and looking really good, obviously, with Cam Curl in there, William Jackson, Kendall Fuller. Go down the list. They're really set up. But the worst one, I agree, would be linebacker, but I'm willing to go a step further, and I would be saying maybe running back. And I don't mean it.
Going to be my second choice.
I don't mean any disrespect by Antonio Gibson. I think is going to be a first rounder in fantasy this year. He's going to work his way into. I definitely think that it's not Antonio Gibson. It's the depth behind him. I like Jared Patterson a lot. Could he be the number 2 this year? The short yardage back that Peyton Barber was last year, 150%. That could definitely happen. But just looking at it right now, I'd be willing to bet it's running back.
Yeah. No, I mean, like I said, that was where I was going back and forth with, kind of linebacker, running back. But just for the simple fact that I'm probably super biased towards my man Gibson, so I just had to give the slight edge to the running back room.
Yeah, I understand. I know it's hard to talk bad about the running backs. Now, Scott's last question for us. How do you really feel about the Wilkinson report and the punishment to Dan Snyder, the $10 million fine to the Washington football team? How do you feel about that, Hall?
I mean, obviously, it's like just a kind of a slap on the wrist for a guy that's making millions and billions of dollars. $10 million is kind of, obviously nothing. Really, it's not even him getting fined. It's like the team getting fined.
Yeah, I mean, the dude just bought a $100 million yacht not too long ago. The $10 million, he's just like laughing at. I 100% understand. Yeah.
Yeah, and as far as like, obviously, the NFL is trying to keep their own and kind of hug their own and kind of bring him in and be like, hey, we're going to protect him. So on that part of it, it's kind of crappy. And obviously, like, the victims in this like deserve like more of a voice, deserve more of acknowledgement and more of a punishment on Dan Snyder's side. On the flip side of things, I try to look at the on the field stuff and kind of separate the off the field stuff. But when you have something like this and you look at past punishments with the owners getting in trouble and stuff like that, it usually always results in draft picks getting taken.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I didn't want the team on the field to get hurt by the stuff off the field. So in that aspect, that's the only thing I'm kind of like, yay about, is they didn't take any draft picks away. But again, obviously it was like a way super not as harsh punishment as it should have been. But I mean, what can you do now? It's in the past. You just got to move forward with your life.
Yeah, look, I've been trying to talk about this for about a year now. I said it about a year ago that I thought that Roger Goodell and Dan Snyder had a meeting. And in that meeting, Dan Snyder was told that if you don't change the name, you probably are going to sink with this ship. Now, if you change the name, we will help. We'll talk with each other. We'll make sure this investigation gets done correctly, thoroughly. We'll get rid of all the bad pieces, but you'll continue to be able to be the owner of the team, but you will not be able to continue doing the shenanigans that have gone on before. Now, that being said, you can't look at this in a vacuum and say this $10 million, it's such a small sample size. He wipes his butt with it. I get it. You're right. He does. But don't look at the punishment has been this entire year of the NFL coming in and essentially making the Washington football team into a corporate office, making it corporatized. It's not even a word, but you know what? I just deemed it one. And that's what they're done that's what it's done to the Washington football teams. You have to imagine they came in with a microscope, overlooking everything, picking everything apart, and then taking off what they wanted to and making it look good. That's essentially what they did. Is they took the ugly ugly person from school, they brought him in, gave him a bunch of makeup, gave him a new wardrobe, and sent him out there and said, "Yep, this is our new product," and then here's a $10 million fine with it. That was along, and I really do believe that Dan Snyder has been away for a year because of what that meeting. Because what Roger Goodell told him, stay away. This is going to be the end result anyway, me telling you to stay away. So just go stay away from a year. We'll make sure, and this will be an agreement between us. Nobody in the public will know. And once this all comes out, we'll give you just a minor fine to say that's the punishment, but they're not going to know what happens right now. That's how I feel it's going to be. Is Dan Snyder guilty of everything that he's been accused of? No, I truly do not believe that. Did he run his company horribly? Yes. Did he allow this behavior to live? Yes. Does that mean that he should have to sell his property? No. 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 And that is a very good reason why the owners are not allowing this sort of shenanigans to happen, because guess what can happen now? If Dan Snyder has to sell his property, guess what's going to happen? That's going to invite any wealthy person to come up with a bunch of accusations against the owner, get him forced out, and guess what? There's a new guy sitting there waiting. Hey, I'll buy your team. That's incentive to want to do this in the future. If you allow this to go down with accusations being able to take away property, that is a very slippery slope, my friend, and not one that smart people know will happen and will take advantage of doing. Regardless of what you want, evil exists in this world, and it will find its way to you. You have to make sure you're prepared for it. That's my spiel. Is Snyder a great person? No. Is he an innocent person? No. All I want is for you to stay the hell away. If you stay the hell away, we are good. Stay away. As soon as I see you start putting your fingers back on Jason Wright or Ron Rivera, I'm out, dude. I'm out. Like, this literally is the last stretch. Like, if Dan, seriously, dude, if you don't step away, I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch his team.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And like you said, this has been like my whole life pretty much of just mediocrity at best. And it always circles back to Dan Snyder did this. Dan Snyder had his hand on this, blah, 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 blah. And look, like you said, I truly do think for the last year, he was just in the shadows, kind of doing his own thing, worried about all this legal stuff, worried about the stadium, stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. And look how this team was. Obviously, they still had a losing record. Obviously, if the division was bad and all these injuries, we probably wouldn't have won the division. But guess what? We did. And on top of that, no one even thought we were going to win 7 games last year. Yeah. It was supposed to be a complete rebuild, culture flip, and then start winning games. Well, guess what? We did both of those in the same season. So it's only up from here. And like you said, if he can stay away for this another season, in the second season, Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, I definitely think this team is going to do great things. Yeah, look, like I said, Snyder's not innocent. But at the same time, those people who were doing the most egregious things are out of the building now. Yeah. And they hired a PR department or an HR department, something they did not have before, because these women, these people were getting harassed at work, and they had no one they could go to. They could only go to their bosses, and their bosses were the ones that were doing it. They didn't have an HR. They didn't have a fallback. They now have that fallback. They fired all the people with the cheerleading scandal. They fired the people that were heckling, Rihanna? Rhiannon Walker. I'm sorry, Rhiannon. I'm sorry. I butchered your name. Every time I read it, I just can't come out with it. You know what I'm saying? But they've done everything necessary to make sure they've purged. Because as a fan base, our biggest worry and concern regarding the Washington football team at this point shouldn't be how much of a punishment is going on Dan Snyder. Our biggest priority should be making sure that our building and our
favorite team isn't a sham, isn't a huge like laughing stock because we can't treat women properly in a workplace. This is ridiculous. Run it professional like it's supposed to. My goodness. But now, guys, I just want to let you know we are now joined by Louie Tee, you know, the famous YouTube star, Mr. Louie Tee, as he's getting his camera ready and set up. He's joining us for the last stretch of this episode. We got a two-banger for you guys. So I wanted to thank Tony for his questions. But let's move on to Tony Shiver's question here, Mike. What's up, Louie? How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I can't complain,
Hey,
my
what's
dude.
going on, man?
All right.
Thank you so much for joining us. But right now, Louie, what we're doing is we're going through fan questions. I'm not sure if you wanted to hop in, just give your 2 points. But Tony Shivers asked this question, said, who is more underrated beyond the local market here in their sport, Terry or Trey Turner?
Ooh, that's a good one. I'd probably say Terry McLaurin just because the Nationals were on the big stage just a couple years ago and won the World Series. Trey Turner was a big part of that. Trey Turner's been a staple on this team for the Nationals for a couple years now. He's been like that kind of the face, the superstar of the team before Juan Soto got here. And, so I definitely go Terry. And, look, I think that Terry's going to get his respect this year because I think he'll finally have adequate or, like, pretty much he'll have solid quarterback play from Ryan Fitzpatrick. He'll have more targets, probably more yardage. I don't know if the touchdowns will be there because he'll be getting most of the coverage, but I definitely think this is going to be Terry's time to burst onto the NFL scene.
What do you think, Louie?
So are we talking within the fan bases or are we talking about overall?
I think he's saying basically like nationally who gets more, who's underrated in their sport, because Trey Turner, for context, Trey Turner was not elected to the All-Star team.
Right.
So
I think it's Trey Turner.
Okay.
Because in Washington, really offensively they got nothing, or they had nothing, and
Yeah.
Terry McLaurin was really the only guy offensively that teams worried about. I mean, look, you had guys like Richard Sherman saying, look, they can't cloud coverage him anymore. They got other guys now.
Yeah.
Like, it was bad in Washington.
what a great way to put that.
You know, whereas with the Nationals, they've always had guys, whether it was Zimmerman for a stretch there where he was the face of the Nats. Like, I can't stand the Nationals. I'm a Braves fan, but Juan Soto is the man. That's my guy. You know what I mean? Like, so when I look at the Nationals, I look at 3 or 4 guys before I even think about Trey Turner.
Right.
And maybe that's not fair to him, but I mean, even this year, look at what's going on this year with the guy from the Cubs that's come in and Schwarber has hit a bunch of bombs this year. You know, he's the guy that everybody's talking about with the Nats this year. So I think there's always someone else you can look at with the Nationals. And you could talk about before you get to Trey Turner, 2 or 3 guys, and I think he gets kind of put on the back burner.
Yeah, and that's a really good point by you. I know you being a Braves fan, but dude, how swaggy is it when Juan Soto spits at those pitches? You know, he grabs his crotch and he bends. That's my dude right there.
I love that dude, and when he gets 2 strikes. Yeah, and like, you know, if you get him with a pitch and he goes, okay, all right, that was a good one. All right, I got it. You know what I mean? He shows up on that bat. Now he got 2 strikes. Like, hey, Juan Soto, man, that's my guy.
I was so happy when that was on full display during the World Series. When everybody got to see that, I was just like, this is Juan. This is his coming out party.
So, Reed, we are joined by Louie Tee. You obviously know him from YouTube, the famous Louie Tee.
Of course.
The last question we had was from Tony Shiver. So, real quick, the question was, who is more underrated beyond the local market here in their sport? Terry or Trey Turner?
Oh, that is a good question.
Yeah.
Trey Turner does not get nearly enough national recognition. However, he did make the All-Star game this past year as a reserve. I think over the last, since he was on the World Series stage, a lot of people knew about him. He had a fantastic year in the shortened COVID year last year. This season, he's playing fantastic again. As I said, made the All-Star game as a reserve. I think Terry still gets overlooked so much. Terry has had, 7 different quarterbacks throwing him the ball over the last 2 seasons and still has over 2,000 yards combined. I think if everybody talks about A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf from that class, if you were to put Terry with Russell Wilson or Ryan Tannehill on any of those offenses, Terry's going to be a household name, a legit number 1 receiver.
Yeah.
So it's tough because they're both underrated in my opinion because I'm a homer for both of them. But I'm gonna go with Terry.
I'm right there with you, Reed, for all of the right reasons that you said. Now, our next question is from Tony. He wants to know, Louie, I want to ask your question because this week it just got announced. I know I had an issue with it, But Hard Knocks is going to be done by the Dallas Cowboys. What's your opinion on that? Are you kind of like, why again are we seeing them? Or are you kind of like, all right, I'm happy about that?
It really, honestly, doesn't make me one bit of difference. I didn't want to be on it, just personally myself. Yeah. I'd love to see it personally, but I don't know. Like, I guess I'm still paranoid. I can't lie. I have PTSD, from years past with this organization. We have a little bit of success, and we usually don't handle it well the next year. This is different.
No.
So I want to, give them the benefit of the doubt this time around, Ron. It just feels different, but I didn't want any parts of it. So let them have all the spotlight. Let them do this for the third time. Jerry loves this.
Yep.
Let them have it, and we'll see what that does for them. But I didn't want any parts of it.
I will say, I'm sorry, real quick. I will say that with Hard Knocks, like, this is the Cowboys' third time, and that is frustrating. But I get it, they're popular. But I would have rather have seen the Giants on there. I really would. I just think Joe Judge is such an interesting character, and then they have so many storylines there with the wide receiver room being so full. Daniel Jones, is he going to pan out or not? That defense, and then Saquon coming back.
I don't know if that's big enough for HBO though.
It's not. That's the thing. It's not. Dallas is beyond. Dallas is way too popular. So but the Giants' whole thing, to me, I just find it interesting. I would have rather have seen them. But
I mean, hell, we would have been more interested in the Giants.
Yeah,
I
mean, we weren't one of the we weren't one of the finalists though.
Right.
We didn't fit the criteria.
Because we made the playoffs, so we have the right to say no. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, we got a quarterback competition. That's always golden for Hard Knocks is a team with a quarterback.
And not only that, we're Washington. We've always got drama.
Yeah.
We've always. We would make great TV.
Past,
we're made for TV.
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. More so in the past. Imagine if that would happen last season.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. Ron saved us from it.
Yeah, exactly.
No, new coach.
I was gonna say, dude, if we're gonna talk about like quarterback controversies and like competition and what really sells, should have went to Green Bay. If you had Hard Knocks in Green Bay during all this Aaron Rodgers debacle with Jordan Love and everything, that would make for some great TV.
They didn't fit the criteria either. There was 5 teams.
Right. I understand, but what I'm saying, we're just going based off ratings.
Okay.
But I will say that, like, when I first saw it, I was like, blah, throw up. But a part of me is like, I'm glad because generally whoever's on Hard Knocks has a terrible season.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'm okay with seeing that with Dallas. But that being said, I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to sit there and watch HBO just slobber all over Dallas with every point that they can, I
love Hard Knocks. I watch them all. I'm watching the hell out of this one.
I mean, I'll probably watch it just because I like to watch Hard Knocks. But, I mean, like you said, I didn't even know this. We brought it up last time. But like you just said, Kyle, normally teams that get on Hard Knocks usually have a bad season. And if you look back at the history,
was the Ravens.
Yeah, exactly. Right after the Super Bowl.
2001.
But and if you look back and like the history of the Cowboys for the past like 15, 20 years, every single time they get all this offseason hype, all this build up, oh, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. Everybody's talking. All the national media is talking about, oh, this is their year. They're gonna fall on their faces. So I'm all for it. Let them fall on their face.
Yeah.
Also, I will say it'll be interesting to see Micah Parsons in the locker room because we all know what he allegedly did in that Penn State locker room.
You're ridiculous. Now our next question is from Andy Burrows in the UK. Oi!
Oi.
And we're going to go to you, Louie, first. His question is, your house is burning down. No one is in it, and this is purely a hypothetical question. You can save 3 things. What are they and why?
Wow. Okay. I am going to save my card collection. I am going to save. I guess I'll start throwing some shoes out of the window.
It sounds like you got a lot of shoes because,
yeah, and I'm gonna grab as much of my electronics as possible.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of electronics, as you can imagine, cameras, computers, laptops.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm snatching up as much of that stuff as I can get. Get that stuff out of here, man.
Dude, I'm right there with you, dude. For 3 things I'm grabbing here, Andy, it's probably my laptop, my microphone, and my W hat. That's about it, and I'm getting the hell out of here.
Yeah. I'm going to try to grab as much as my Washington/Redskins paraphernalia as possible. Probably my laptop because I can barely live without this thing. And
don't lie to people.
I can barely use it, but I told
Join 2021. Use your phone, man.
And third thing would probably some shoes. I'd probably start chucking shoes out the window like Louie Tee.
Yeah, so obviously people don't count. Otherwise, I'm assuming Kyle would have said his son and wife, and I
Oh yeah,
would've said
that's
my son
what
and
that's
wife.
what
I know.
Burrow said. There's nobody in the house.
Okay, there's nobody in the house. Okay, I don't listen to Andy half the time when he talks. So I don't know. So obviously laptop, like you guys said, that's where my entire life is, being a DJ and doing the podcast. I would have to say my DJ controller, and then guess my last thing would have to be my Michael Jordan signed basketball, just because it's Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I got Michael Jordan's cigar upstairs as well. That's a great question from you, dude. I appreciate it.
Feel bad for my cat, but like that MJ
The Dennis Rodman,
The Dennis Rodman cigar. It's a terrible inside joke that was made up for you. Nobody will let it go. Now, our last question is from our boy Rio Robinson. You know, one of the Washington fan ambassadors.
Rio.
Our boy Rio. He wants to know which Washington player not named Chase Young would be the best Marvel superhero, and who would make the best villain. And I asked him for context in regards to the villain, the best villain in terms of like adversary or character of a villain, and he said the character of a villain. Okay. So who would make the best Marvel superhero, and then who would make the best character of a villain? Louie, I'll start with you.
That is one hell of a question. I don't even know where to begin with that one. Let's see. So I would say that a defender would have to be the villain. It'd have to be a defensive guy.
Okay.
So, wow. I guess the biggest badass on the defense is Jonathan Allen.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's the one that always gets set up at the mic and is like just talking and pissed off and like we didn't do anything, you know. So I guess I'd say he'd be the villain, and the superhero, I guess, would have to be, I guess, Terry on the offensive side of the football. If we're taking a guy, I would look at it one guy offensively, one guy defensively. So. Right. I guess it would be Terry on the other side.
That's what I'm saying. That's the good one right there. He knows what he's talking about. Reed, it sounded like you had some ready to go.
Yeah. Does it have to be a player from the team? Because obviously my bad guy would be Dan Snyder.
That is awesome.
Tech billionaire, like he's kind of a real life villain if you think about it. Like,
I'll let it slide. That was very smart. That was very smart.
Okay, cool. And then I kind of want to say that my superhero would be. I know like defense seems kind of like the bad guys. Like I think you're right about that. But I almost want to go with Montez Sweat and his ability to just stretch his long, limber, almost like Fantastic Four. And just real quick, Dan Snyder's little villain buddy would be a little leprechaun named Fitzpatrick. So he would be guarding his goal.
Oh my God. Now, who the superhero would be? I would have to say probably Cam Curl would be the superhero. Be like Spider-Man, just snatching everything out of the air with all the interceptions he had last year. But the villain, and I'm talking about character of a villain, it has to be Ryan Fitzpatrick. Having the beard, got the cape, got everything. He's kind of like Dr. Evil in a way, that kind of like goofy, like, maniacal kind of way. Yeah. Totally think Ryan Fitzpatrick could pull off a villain. I
thought about that too. It came to my mind. I was like, yeah, but he's so lovable though.
I know.
That's why I had a hard time saying it. Yeah. I just love the guy so much.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I was going to go my villain. I was going to go Fitzpatrick, only because like Two-Face from Batman, or like Jekyll and Hyde, because everyone says you got Fitz tragic, Fitz magic. One minute he's smiling, he's happy. The next minute he's like going crazy, screaming on the field like a madman.
You could make it deep, and he could be both the villain and the superhero.
There you go.
I like that a lot. Now I wanted to ask.
I don't think that's what he was doing. Go ahead, Paul. Finish.
I mean, no, you already took the good ones. I was just gonna say Terry would be the superhero, because I mean he's done everything for this offense the past 2 years.
Now, before you guys were hopped on, we went through some other fan questions, and we already answered it, but I wanted to bounce this off of you first. Louie, if after 7, this is from Tay and Todd's podcast, it was a great question. If after 7 weeks the team is 2-5 and Fitzpatrick's stat line is something like 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 1,700 yards, are you pulling the plug and going Fitzpatrick? Or going Taylor Heineke, sorry.
It's all about context, because our first 7 are rough.
Yeah.
It's brutal. And if he's playing well and, in the context of those, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. He's given us a chance, and it's really not all on him because there are so many big games left on the schedule, especially in the division. We got 5 backloaded.
Yep.
And obviously what the division is doing is going to speak volumes as to what you do too. Because if they're struggling like they were last year and we're right there in the thick of things, you probably don't make the move. But if we're out of it, if Dallas or the Giants are running away with the division, there's no chance that we're going to be able to climb back into this thing. Then I think you owe it to Taylor Heineke to see if this is a guy that you could potentially be grooming for the spot of quarterback, in the future, or do we need to draft a guy? And I don't know if Heineke is someone that would stop them from drafting a young quarterback or not, but you would need to find that out. So I think if you get to that point of the season, and you don't feel like this team is going to be able to turn it around, you probably should be going to Taylor Heineke at that point.
Agreed. What do you think, Reed?
Oh, I 100% agree. I think you're right. The first 7 games are brutal. So it's really kind of all about the context. I mean, if Fitz is playing good enough, that we're still in these games, that we could win them, then I think you stick with him. Clearly there was a quarterback change this past year when we didn't through 4 games when we just it wasn't. You could just tell the offense wasn't even close with Haskins. So if Fitz is doing all right, then you stick with him. But at the same time, you do kind of got to find out what you have in Taylor Heineke, because both the times that he played last year, he looked really good. And you got to find out if that's for real or if that's just a flash in the pan or what.
He's got to stay healthy first and foremost.
Exactly. Exactly.
But Louie, I wanted to ask your opinion, because Michael Phillips, a former guest of ours for the Richmond Times Dispatch, he had put out an article basically saying that Washington should actually start Heineke at the start of the season and then rely on Fitzpatrick if he fizzles out, rather than banking on Fitz and then having to go to Taylor if something went wrong. How do you feel about that thought process? Would you be for that?
Oh, I would be all for it, because that's a familiar situation for Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Right.
This is uncharted territory for him, being really the guy going into camp and being the unquestioned starter essentially. That's uncharted territory for him. Whereas coming off the bench in a relief role and saving the day, that's pretty much what he's been, especially the last 5 to 7 years of his career. So I think it'd be better for us to find out what Taylor Heineke has early. Because even in the scenario you just posed, 2-5, season might be done early. You still won't really get a good feel because the games don't have as much weight. The magnitude of the games that he's playing in, you could diminish how well he played by saying, oh, well, those games didn't really mean anything, So if you give him an opportunity right out of the gate to see what he can do, the competition is going to be stiff. See how he handles it. If he plays well, hey, maybe we got something here. If he doesn't, as you said, Fitzpatrick is ready to go. But I think the thought process behind going with Fitzpatrick is, I've said this on my show 1,000 times, that if you look at the way this roster has been constructed, this is a Super Bowl caliber roster.
Yes.
If you insert the quarterback in that's ready to win now.
Yes, definitely.
Because Taylor Heineke is such a question mark, you could be stunting the growth of this roster if he's not ready. Whereas with Ryan Fitzpatrick, if he's ready to go, and I'm not the biggest Ryan Fitzpatrick fan. I'm not going to sit here and act as if I am, but the guy's played enough football that if he hits that inside straight, catches lightning in a bottle with this defense and what we think we've got on offense, who knows what could happen. Exactly. You never know. So I think that's the danger in going opposite of what Ron Rivera is looking to do initially. Now, again, if he throws up all over himself, if he soils himself during the camp and into the preseason, and Heineke, who knows this offense, continues to play well, a wise man once told me you can't lie to the team. You can't put a guy out there that they know isn't the guy for the job. You can't lie to the team. So he's going to have to go out there, and I think he will solidify the job. But I don't think that most fans I know want to see Heineke.
Yeah, and
they want to see Heineke right away.
Yeah, it's true.
I think that's why Ron is doing it the way he's going to do it.
Now, Louie, let me ask you, because I really do feel like the fans are getting too much crap, right? Because a lot of people are saying the fans are putting too much stock in so-and-so or putting too much stock into the team. So I'm not trying to be negative, but let me just get your mind of what you think of the team right now. What are your biggest concerns surrounding the team?
Well, obviously, we just touched on one
The
of them,
quarterback.
position. Like, everything hinges upon the success of the quarterback. If the quarterback isn't playing well, this team isn't going to play well, more likely than not, especially with the quarterbacks we're playing. It's great we can sit here and talk about the defense and how great they are, but we could probably have to score 30-something this year. Like, we just scored 30 not one time last year. That can't happen this year. We had 40 against the Cowboys on Thanksgiving, but we just scored 30 once last season. So we're going to have to score points if you want to beat Mahomes or Josh Allen or Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson. You're going to have to score 30 plus in multiple games if you want to, outduel some of these teams. But quarterback is a worry of mine. I'm not as worried about the offensive line, but over 60% of the offensive line, 60% of the line is going to be different than it was a year ago, opening day last year. So that's something. I think we've got enough depth, though. We're going to find the right 5 guys. I feel confident about that, but it's still continuity, gelling together, all of those things. But really, the next biggest worry of mine is the depth at linebacker.
Okay.
Because I think the front line, we still don't know who the starting 3 linebackers are going to be. We play a ton of nickel anyway, so we have 2 backers on the field a ton. And we like to think that Jamin Davis and Cole Holcomb are going to be the 2 backers on the field for the most part anyway. But when we're in our base, who's that third backer? Is it Khalid Hudson? Are we going back to John Bostic? And then what happens if somebody goes down? Like, we were terrible when Cole Holcomb went down.
Yeah.
Early in the year when he got injured, we struggled a little bit. And then when he got hurt, I thought Khalid Hudson gave us something against Seattle in that game. He had like 15, 16 tackles. But we missed Cole Holcomb when he wasn't out there. So I worry about the depth of this team if something were to happen at linebacker with our front line guys.
I love that.
And then I think a minor worry is corner, but I'm anxious to see. I wasn't the biggest fan of the pick when they picked Juice, but we'll see what he does, how fast he can get on the field and contribute, because I think that would allow them to kick Kendall Fuller inside the nickel. I worry about nickel, not the boundary guys. Even if Fuller's out there, I feel good about that, with William Jackson being added to the mix. I am a little bit worried about nickel, though. That's been a problem for us. I feel like teams have taken advantage of us inside. Even when we go to our big nickel, I think Cam Curl has done some fantastic things, but he's a liability in there as well. So I worry about the nickel for us. But again, it's quarterback, linebacker depth, and then the secondary.
Yeah, there's 3 things guaranteed in life: death, taxes, and tight ends doing well against Washington. It just happens.
You're hoping that stops with Jamin Davis, that addition. But man, that has been one of the things you can count on year in.
Every year.
Now, another thing has always seemed to be running quarterbacks.
Yes.
Running quarterbacks have always hurt us.
Yeah.
But again, that's where Jamin Davis comes in as well.
Exactly.
We've been adding so much team speed defensively.
Yes.
We're so much faster than we used to be defensively. But yes, those were the 2 things you could count on us struggling with.
Yeah, and shout out to HTWR, that podcast, Freddie Ham and Matty Crocker. They had on Jack Del Rio early in the offseason. They asked him what's the one thing he wants to add to this defense. He said speed, 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 and that's exactly what they did. Now, to finish up this episode, guys, let's go down. I have a couple questions here. It's going to be very quick for us, but I want to go one by one what you think these options are and which one it's going to be. So who has more receiving yards this season? Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, or Logan Thomas? And I'll start with you, Hall.
I'll go Terry McLaurin, because I think that Ryan Fitzpatrick he loves to feed his number 1 target, and Terry's clearly the number 1 target.
All right. What about you, Reed?
Yeah, I'm going to go Terry. I could see somebody else leading in receptions, but Terry receiving yards.
What do you think of Louie?
Ditto. It's
okay. I'm going Logan Thomas. The only reason, because that Mike Gesicki last year had an uptick in targets with Miami. That was with Ryan Fitzpatrick, likes those big, rangy type of guys. I could definitely see Logan Thomas having a career year. Now, the next one, let's start this off with you, Louie. Sacks. Who's going to lead sacks? Matt Ioannidis, Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Daron Payne, or Jonathan Allen?
It's going to be Chase Young, but I wouldn't be shocked if it was Montez Sweat. But I just look at it as that big second-year jump. Khalil Mack had like 4.5, and then he had 15 in his second year. J.J. Watt had 5.5, and then he had 20 in his second year. I don't know if it's going to be that monumental leap, but I could see him going. I mean, hell, he had 7.5 last year. You know what I mean? It's not like he's started from the bottom. I could see him having, 14, 15 sacks this year.
No, that's
and
great.
with Ioannidis back in the middle,
that's going to be huge.
That is so massive. I don't think enough people understand just how big he is in terms of rushing the quarterback.
He's our best interior pass rusher.
Not even close.
And that's exactly why I brought this in here, because I kind of wanted to see how the topography of this all is going to work out with Matt Ioannidis in there, how it's really going to mesh with everyone around it. So, Reed, do you agree? Do you think Chase is going to be the one leading in sacks this year?
Yeah, it's going to be him or Montez. Honestly, I'm going to lead Montez Sweat this year, in year 2. I think that not enough people talk about how good Montez Sweat is. Montez Sweat is fantastic. And look, obviously, nothing taken away from Chase. Chase is he's going to be the better player. Chase he is the better all-around player right now. It's just, when it comes to sacks, I think that Chase Young and some of these guys are going to demand so much attention that Montez is going to get free, and he's too athletic and long to not grab a couple quarterbacks and pull them down by their shoelaces if he needs to.
I totally agree with that. For me, I think it's going to be Daron Payne, and the reason I say this,
he's going to lead the team in sacks.
Yeah, wow. And the reason why I say this is because Matt Ioannidis coming in automatically brings eyes into the equation, right? Because it says, okay, this is their best pass rusher utility, right? We all know Jonathan Allen is a superb run stuffer. He's going to be taken off on probably the late downs, right? That means Daron Payne and Matt Ioannidis in the middle, and Montez Sweat and Chase Young. Daron Payne is the last thing on their minds, and I'm not saying it's any negative towards Daron Payne, but when Daron Payne has to deal with one-on-ones every single rep, he's going to win. And I think that from that interior, teams are going to know that circle's coming in with Chase Young and Montez Sweat. Every single drop back is going to be 1 to 3 yards. It's going to be quick. It's going to have to be very, very fast out of the quarterback's hands. That's why I think the interior is really going to do well this year, and Daron Payne could easily lead the team in sacks. I know it's insane, but just the way it looks.
If a defensive tackle leads this team with these ends and sacks, God damn.
It's going to be definitely clearly your number one defense if that's the case.
Yeah.
Either something's going really right or really wrong.
There's no in between there.
Right. Now, let's go to Hall. Interceptions. So let's start with you, Reed. Who leads in interceptions? Kendall Fuller, William Jackson III, Cam Curl, or Jimmy Moreland?
I'm just going to say I know he doesn't have many for his career, but I really think that behind this defensive line, William Jackson III is going to establish himself as the top 5 cornerback in the NFL. But I don't know if he is going to lead the team in interceptions. I think he's going to have a lot of pass breakups like Ronald Darby did last year. I don't think he's going to allow a lot of completions. I do, however, think that you are going to see finally a big year from Jimmy Moreland, assuming that he sees the field a lot. Because that guy's a ball hawk when he's
a dog.
He's always around the ball. But he won't be our best corner, but I think he has a good chance in leading us with people avoiding the outside.
I don't even know what's going on right now, dog.
You're okay. We can hear you now, Hall, so calm down just a smidge. All right, so Louie, what about you? Who leads in interceptions? Kendall Fuller, William Jackson, Cam Curl, Jimmy Moreland?
Kendall Fuller. Last year,
my man,
he came into the lineup and he lit it up right away.
Mike, stop talking.
He came right in, and we missed him. I think the first 2 games of the season, jumped in against Cleveland and didn't miss a beat. I think he had 4 interceptions in his first
hot for
3 or 4 games.
Yeah.
And I think that, like you said, with William Jackson getting a lot of the attention early, I think he's going to have to prove himself because he's coming from a different conference. These quarterbacks don't know him. He makes some plays early. They're going to start going elsewhere. I think Kendall Fuller may be the biggest beneficiary of that.
Yeah.
And we know he can catch the football. Going back to his first stint with us, where he was our best nickel defender and really our best corner for that matter.
Hands down,
I think if he gets opportunities, he's a guy that's proven that he's going to take full advantage of them.
And you're right. He's going to take fuller advantage of it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, nice. I like it.
I'll show myself out.
Hey, Louie, I'm right there with you. Kendall Fuller. Yeah, we can hear you, Mike. Kendall Fuller was my pick as well, and for this exact reasons that you said, those were perfect, absolutely perfect. Now my last one here is touchdowns. Gibson, Logan Thomas, Terry McLaurin, or Curtis Samuel. Who do you think is going to lead in touchdowns at the end of the season, Louie?
Gibby is the man. Last year, he
12?
was phenomenal getting into the end zone. I mean, and there were a couple of more opportunities that he just missed out on that you think about some big plays where he ended up getting tripped up inside the 5-yard line.
And he didn't play a full season.
And he didn't play a full season. Remember, he wasn't playing a ton early, you know?
Exactly right.
Those first 2-3 weeks of the season, he wasn't getting many reps at all. They were kind of babysitting him a bit, bringing him along. So, and then, of course, he missed, a game and 2 games, really, the Steelers game and the Seahawks game late in the season. So the guy was phenomenal last year at getting into the end zone. And they've talked about expanding his role this year as a receiver and having him catch more balls. So I'm excited about his growth. I listened to running backs coach Randy Jordan talk about him now seeing the finer details of the position because he's not having to learn pretty much a brand new position, but now having the ability to do the little things that will take a 2-yard run and change it into a 5 or 6 yard run. I just think Gibby is a beast, and we're going to see that this year, and I think he's going to lead the team in touchdowns.
Look, obviously that's the easiest one, right? It's the safest one. It's safest one. I get it. I'm just trying to have I'm just trying to have a good conversation here, and that's a great point by you. Do you feel the same way, Reed?
So look, I'll just start off with saying we had one of my new best friend, by the way, Logan Paulson, was on our show with one of a few times ago. And he talked about Antonio Gibson, and he said Antonio Gibson has the potential to be a top 5, top 3 running back in the NFL. He says he's that good. And I agree with you. I think Gibson should lead the team, but I'm going to go a little bit outside the box, and I'm going to go with the person that Kyle picked to lead the team in receiving yards, and that is the number 1 red zone target. He should be, with his size and the fact that Ryan Fitzpatrick loves these big targets. I'm going to go with Logan Thomas just to switch it up. Realistically, though, it'll probably be Gibson because a running back should get more, tutties than a.
I'll go outside the realm again. I think it's going to be Curtis Samuel, and one of the reasons why is because of the pre-snap motion and the running ability that he does offer in the red zone. That's crucial for Scott Turner to be able to say, I'm going to put Curtis Samuel in pre-snap motion before every snap, and you're not going to know if he's going to run a route or if he's going to take the ball. I think Curtis Samuel could easily develop a whole bunch of touchdowns in this offense, especially with Scott Turner at the helm.
That's a very good point because with his versatility, first of all, we have a lot of versatile players on this offense.
Right.
But his versatility in that sense, and the fact that he was the best deep threat last year in the league, according to advanced stats.
Yep.
He's gonna get open downfield. People are gonna be scared of Logan Thomas over the middle. They're gonna be scared of Terry. De'Ami Brown should be. He should be effective. And then you still have J.D. McKissick, Antonio Gibson coming out of the backfield. Samuel could get open downfield a lot.
You're absolutely right. I know this episode was kind of all over the place, everybody.
Dude, this was the weirdest episode. Do you have any idea how pissed I am that I missed Colonel for this too?
My father-in-law, who's a big fan of us, Louie, was our first guest on tonight, and so we were finally.
He makes fun of me all the time, and I was so excited to finally have him on there and ask him about aliens and the
all
UFOs.
kinds of stuff.
That's all. And my internet was going out. My son was pulling on my thing. A bunch of stuff happened with my stepson's father, and it was just like, God, what is going on?
It's just normal. But Louie,
It's life.
yes, but I was so pumped when I logged on here and saw you. So
I will say, dude, you're very, very good at what you do. Obviously,
Amazing.
There's people who watch what you do, and I loved your opinions. I think that you are spot on, and you bring insightful intellect into the conversation. When not that many people would think of something like that. When you think outside the box, I respect the hell out of that, Louie. And I can't
outside the box, and it's logical too.
Yeah, I can't thank you enough for joining us, dude. Taking time out to be able to do it with us. I know you have your show already, but I can't thank you enough, sir.
Hey, appreciate you guys for having me, man. It's a lot of fun.
Of course, sir. All right, guys. We'll see you guys on Thursday. Until then, Washington football. Hey! All right, guys. Good job.
All right.
So it's just me.